week on Just Gay Stuff podcast, we sat down with the current Brisbane cast for the first ever production of Fun Home. Fun Home is the real coming-of-age story of Alison Bechdel, who, while grappling with her own identity and sexuality, is forced to explore the complexities of family, life, and death, especially after discovering some major secrets involving her father. In this interview, the voices you will hear in order are Adam, who's playing Bruce, Grace, the choreographer and assistant director, Sherryl-Lee, the director of the show, Emma, who is playing Joan, Michael, who is playing middle Alison, Aurelie, who is playing adult Alison, and Diedre, who is playing Helen. Fun Home is running at PIP Theatre in Milton, in Brisbane, from August 29th to September 14th. Please enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Gay Stuff. I'm Lauren.
And I am Jess, and today we are sitting here with the absolutely brilliant cast of the musical Fun Home, which we're coming to you live from PIP Theatre, which is in Milton in Brisbane, and we have this wonderful cast with us. So if we can go around the circle, everyone introduce yourselves and the character that you're playing in this production.
Sure, my name's Adam Bartlett. I'm playing Bruce Bechdel, the dad, basically.
The dad.
My name's Grace. I'm the assistant director and choreographer.
And I'm Sherryl-Lee. I'm the director of the show.
I'm Emma Erdis and I'm playing Joan.
Hi, I'm Michael Enright and I'm playing medium Alison.
I'm Aurelie Roque and I am playing Alison Bechdel.
I'm Diedre. I'm playing Helen, Bruce's wife, and there's a reason we're sitting at either end of the...
Sitting at opposite ends already. Ooh, the drama has begun.
Tension. They haven't even started the show yet.
So to start off, who wants to tell us what Fun Home is about?
Okay, so Fun Home is based on the 2006 graphic memoir by Alison Bechdel. So it's an autobiography and it details her childhood, and it's non-linear, so it's constantly going back over the events and reflecting on them and seeing if a different course of action could change. And it follows her childhood through her growing up, discovering her sexuality, and then also finding out that her father is gay, and also his death, and seeing if her actions could have changed anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good one.
You
Well
nailed
done,
it.
Gracie.
Cool. Well, as you just explained, Fun Home is very pivotal in the LGBT community. How has being a part of this production impacted all of your lives?
I'm excited to play this role, particularly because he's a gay character, and very, very similar to my own life in that I was married for 17 years and have 2 kids, and then came out as gay. So it's basically Bruce's story and his struggle with his sexuality. So yeah, I love it. I think it's a powerful story because it's personal and it's real and it's someone's real experience. So yeah, and playing someone who's actually lived is it's been great.
And you know that experience is not just unique to you either. It's like, it's going to affect a lot of other men out there that have probably gone through the same thing and later discovered themselves after having a family and then having kids. So that's probably going to affect the audience in a way that makes them feel less isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a story that needs to be told, particularly now, that there are choices and you don't have to make the choice that Bruce took at that time. So yeah, I think stories like this, they help other people to embrace themselves and come out, be themselves. So it's good.
Excellent. Yeah.
This show was an absolute dream come true for me. I was so over the moon when Sherryl-Lee asked me to be a part of it. And it's really awesome because there's not too much choreography in the show. There's a little bit. So it means I get to utilize my dance background, but also focus on the storytelling and psychological aspect of it. And I was actually speaking to my partner about this yesterday, that in my regular life, I'm a social worker. And so I love that they're real people. This is a real story. And to be able to unpack that, not as an actor, but as people, I love that we get to do that.
When I first saw the show, I came away, and everyone laughs at me for this. They say, "You think this is joyful?" I find the show quite joyful. But I think it's because there is no neat ribbon at the end of this show. It doesn't tie up to this lovely happy ending. There is no ending, really. It just is that continuation, and for everyone to be able to sit back and go, well, what does this mean for me? And I felt at the end of the show, the thought that came to me was, this deserves to be told. Everyone has a story that deserves to be told. Like, we have a right to tell stories, tell our own story. And it was just hit me so strongly that we had the opportunity to do that. And I love the fact that this is a piece of theatre that makes you feel. So you come out of this feeling elated because you have just spent the last hour and a bit probably bawling your eyes out at places, but also laughing. There's poignancy. It goes through the whole gamut. And I love the fact that we get to create a piece of theatre that allows an audience to do that, whether they want to or not.
Yeah. An emotional roller coaster.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I play Joan, Alison's first girlfriend, kind of like her gay awakening, I guess. And for me, playing this character has been really, really affirming. And I love being able to represent my community and show people that, like, there are all these different sides to queer love stories. Like, Alison and Joan's love story is, like, quite innocent and beautiful and meaningful, and a lot of people don't normally think about that side of queer relationships. So it's really, really lovely to actually show that to the world. And generally the whole show is very queer, and I'm very on board with that whole concept. But no, it's been a really, really wonderful experience. It's one of my favorite shows.
For me, I think this is the first time that I've played a character that is canonically queer, a gay woman. This is the first time. As an actor, I generally make all of my characters silently queer because I can. And why would I not? But it being in the script, in the text, has been so wonderful and so affirming, I guess, is the word I would use, because I don't have to pull it out of thin air. It's already there for me. This is in someone's actual real life. They've been through it and I get to tell it again. I just think it's been so wonderful. I love it. And even, like, I think there's aspects of Alison's relationship with her mother that I really relate to as well. So getting to tell that on stage as well has been really beautiful. I'm having so much fun. It's great. Apart from the sad things. Don't worry about them.
Well, this is not the first time I've played a gay character. However, it is the first time that I've played a character where, while there is a coming out element, there's a coming out story, it's not a coming out story. The nuance of the LGBTQ-ness of her story is part of the major element that I see as her grief in losing her father, and her trying to understand and pay homage to her family, and predominantly to her father. Like, what you see most is, as she's going back through her memories, is all of the points, happy or sad or both, in certain memories that are pretty connected with either her father and every once in a while with her mother. And all of that connection, and we won't go into the death aspect of it, but how she comprehends her grief, how she comprehends her coming out story, and then his unfortunate passing, which were really close in the timeline. It's a real strong, nuanced way of expressing her story. It's not her gay story. It's her story.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed playing Helen because, to me, she is every woman, no matter what goes on in the family. You know, there's mothers who lose themselves in the day-to-day shopping, washing, cooking, cleaning, all that stuff. And I think Helen in particular was definitely a product of her time. She was the dutiful wife. She thought her role was to stick it out no matter what, which is, you know, very admirable. And so, yeah, that's why I've enjoyed it, because I think it does represent so many women and their stories in and of itself.
Yeah. So how did you all come to be a part of this particular production?
Yeah, very interesting. Well, I've been trying to retire and step back. But Diedre emailed me and said, I'm putting on this show, you should audition for the dad, it's a gay dad. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I often know nothing about the show when I come to audition for it. I'm hopeless.
Not like people that have studied for years.
No, I'm hopeless. I think I might have Googled something or watched a brief snippet or something. I was, oh, that sounds cool, yeah. So that's how I got involved. She sent me an email and I thought, yeah, that's cool. And I thought, I haven't done a musical for 6 years, and I thought, no, I need to sort of stop watching Netflix and leave the house, you know, and get back into what I actually do love doing. Although it's been a while and it's pretty scary. I'm pretty terrified, particularly because this role is so emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do I do this to myself? But it's like a roller coaster. It's sort of exciting and terrifying all at the same thing, acting, because you're stepping out there, you're bearing your soul. It's scary. It's challenging.
Especially with a character that you're identifying quite strongly with as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, does it feel therapeutic in a way?
And I don't think there's anywhere to hide in this show. Well, there certainly isn't in my character. And I think that's what I love about the journey of it too, is that it's a complete journey. You get to explore all levels of emotion and get that sort of... Yeah, it's meaty. It's a meaty role. Anyway, that's how I came across it.
To go off of what you were just saying, sorry, I'm turning this into a discussion. This is no longer a classroom one at a time situation. And I'm not raising my hand. I'm not doing it. Going off what you mentioned, there's no place to hide. Physically, there's no place to hide. We have audience on almost every side. There's only one wall. It's not a fully immersive black box theater, but it is a solid thrust stage. There is no aspect where someone isn't either looking at your face, your side, or your ass. Like
particularly with a show like that.
Yeah.
It's like there's definitely no.
There's no moment of breath. Sometimes as an actor, you can kind of turn and do
We've
a bit of
chosen
acting.
a vulnerable show in an intimate setting.
Yes, yes. And the fact that this is an intimate theater, everything is. I'll be sitting this close to the audience at a point where I have a feeling one of them's going to go, "What did he say?" No, darling. I'm in the show. I can't tell you. I'm not in your timeline. You're watching mine.
I keep getting worried because most of our stuff is literally down in the front corner, like right in the corner. Every time we rehearse it, I'm always like, am I going to trip on their feet? They're so close while I have a gay panic. I'm so scared. Done.
Just embrace it.
Everyone's part of the show now. Welcome.
And I think doing theatre already is such a vulnerable experience, and it's just
and queer stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, and queer. Let's call it that.
I love
and
that.
it's just like maximized 10 times in such that like this intimate space. But it's really, really cool. I've never done anything like this before. It's really fun.
When I was thinking about bringing the show to Brisbane, I thought I need a director who's extremely sensitive to the material and the topic. So I approached Cher first, and basically it all hung on what she said, like whether she was keen to take on the project. So we wouldn't be here if Cher had said no.
Thank you, Sherryl-Lee.
Because, I think what Cher has brought to the project is just such a beautiful warmth and insight and sensitivity and nuance to what we're doing, and just wonderful to have her on board.
So much of directing something like this, a show like this, is being able to stand behind the cast and to acknowledge the vulnerability that they place on the stage, both personally and as actors. It's not just artists, it's people first, artists second. So it's not just these wonderful actors who just throw so much onto the stage, and we've been in rehearsals, we've decided we have to have tissues around the entire place. Like, they're giving so very much that you almost like feel like you have to pick up pieces at the end. But
we might want
that's
to
not
put
just
tissues in the audience as well,
I think
maybe
we might
along
have to.
along the aisles.
Handing out at the door.
But can we hide them behind like a black napkin, so we're like, wow, like halfway through the show, surprise,
Very
it's a
bits of the
tragedy.
props, someone behind us here, dear. Here we go.
I think that the thing that really gets me is, having a daughter myself, it is that father-daughter relationship that is very powerful and that I really connect with. And, you know, the fact that she had lost her father, it's very poignant for me, that. Because there is a particularly strong connection between fathers and daughters, I think. And this is very much a father-daughter story. Yeah. How did you get on board, Grace?
We got off the rails.
So I reached out to Sherryl-Lee in 2023, last year, probably like towards the first half of the year. And I've worked with her before, and she is genuinely my favourite director that I've ever worked with. Everything that she puts on stage is so well thought out to the tiniest detail. She believes in actors first. Like, she's like, we've hired you to act. I'm not going to micromanage your acting. You act and then we'll direct. And that's something that I love about working with her. So when I wanted to reach out to her to see if she would allow me to be an assistant director on any project that she did this year. And then she came back to me a couple months later and said, hey, we're doing Fun Home. Would you be interested? And I was like,
1,000 times yes.
Try not to cry. Like it was, dream come true.
So I heard about Fun Home a few years ago just because I'm a bit of a nerd and I watch a lot of bootleg. And just immediately I was captivated, and every time I watched it I would sob and cry, which you're all going to do. And so then the opportunity came around. I got invited to audition, which sounds really wanky. I'm sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
But got invited to audition, and I was like, okay, well, I need to give this literally everything that I have, because this is like the most important thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I feel like you also kind of felt the same way. Yeah, we were doing a show together at the time, and we were both like, we need this.
Oh God.
We need to be in this. But and then auditioned, got a call back, got the part. But it was just such a cool experience, and really like a little bit like what I was saying before, the character of Joan is just this really, really strong, confident lesbian. And I feel like in terms of my own sexuality, like I've only started coming into that over the past few years. Like I'm in my first queer relationship right now, and it's just like, it was so affirming in myself to be like, oh, I do have the confidence and the charisma to play a character like this. That's really, really fun. And then we got given the opportunity. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Cute. I hope your partner doesn't hear first queer relationship. What do you mean? Is there a second coming? Excuse me.
I need to send a text. Hold on.
You have a few weeks. This won't come out for a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I was very same as Emma. Was invited to audition, screamed and cried about it. Auditioned, literally got in the elevator here, cried on the way down and on the way to the bus stop because I was like, I didn't do good enough and this is my dream. And then I was fine. And then got the call back, and then came and did the call back, got in the elevator, cried on the way down and on to the bus going, I did my best and this is my dream. I'm just going to do my very best. And literally when I got the call that I got medium Alison, put the phone down, sobbed on my floor again, screamed, danced around my house because I was home alone at the time, and just sat in the moment of medium Alison is one of my dream roles that I didn't think I'd ever be able to play, because this is not a show, like this is the Queensland premiere of Fun Home. Like no one here has done this. I didn't think it was ever going to come to Queensland when I was at least young enough to play medium Alison. And the fact that it is here, and I have genuinely the privilege and the honor of telling this story and being a part of this show, and being a part of the show with such wonderful people is mind-blowing to me. I still cannot wrap my head around it. It's insane. Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
Listening to you speak, you can tell how much it means to you.
Yeah.
You just left you just moved out of that house, didn't you?
I did just move out of it. Yeah.
She had a lovely post on her Instagram about you sang the song, which was so sweet.
Yes, I sung the song
the same spot where you got the phone call. It was so
literally.
So
I had my little my dream
on the floor too. She got in the
floor.
exact position on the floor.
Cool. Cute. Ray, okay. So you spoke a little bit about playing Alison. How have you related to her in that role in any way, or how have you felt taking on such a huge role?
She reminds me a lot of my mama Missy in the 90s.
Yeah.
Actually. I do have personal connect, like the conversation with Bruce when medium Alison finally sends a letter to her parents saying that she's gay. The response that Bruce gives is somewhat similar to the response my mom gave me when I told her I was bi.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel that pretty strongly. But for the most part, I see a lot of my mama Missy in Alison Bechdel, including how she dresses. And not just in my costume, but in the research I've done and watching Alison Bechdel in interviews and listening to her in recordings and stuff. My mama Miss is gay, clearly. She's not my real mom, but I call her Mama Miss. I've known her since I was 12. And I mean, she's family. She basically helped raise me in the theater world. Mama, if you're listening, I love you. I hope you're enjoying Europe. So yeah, I'm trying to give the realism of Alison, and because she's a real person, I can't make anything up, clearly. She is not fictional. So I do keep that in mind, but there are certain elements every once in a while that I go, oh, that was Mama Miss that just came popping out of my body. That's my Mama Miss. Yeah, that's about,
Is there an extra pressure behind playing someone who is a real person?
Pros and cons to both. Non-fictional versus fictional. There's going to be challenges to both sides and easy parts to both sides. Where there's, when someone's fictional, you can kind of create an element. You can sometimes create backstory if it doesn't exist. That's a lot of fun to do. You can create how they walk, how they talk, as well as there's variations. You don't have to do it exactly as the person before you. Elphaba. There's 100 different variations of how the words are said. Non-fictional, real people, you do feel an element of, I really should pay as much respect and homage to the actual person. Walk like them, sure. Talk like them, yeah, kind of. Especially with Alison, because she is a stickler for the accuracy of everything. She made it very clear that in her graphic novels, nothing was filler. That bush was there because it was there.
Yeah.
That tree was there because it was there. The whole story is about her finding the real because she can't trust her memory. She draws from what's exact because it has to be that way. So it's kind of fun when you do the scenes or when I listen to the scenes and watch them because I go, wow, I mean, there has to be a strong element of that was almost exactly how that went, maybe. How that conversation happened. So there is a sense of realness to the conversations because she either did her research or she really tried to delve into the accuracy of it. So based on that, I feel a need in this particular character to keep her as accurate and as close to the Alison Bechdel that still currently exists today as much as I can.
Yeah, wow. There's a lot to it. There's a lot more to...
Tell me about it.
Yeah. But that's an element to acting and portraying characters that a lot of people, us that do not act, don't understand. So, there's a lot of research. There's a lot of in-depth things that you have to do to be able to portray a character, especially if they are a real person.
I was always taught there is no ensemble. You are not tree number 7. You are Peg Leg Pete, who pirates on Tuesdays and Thursdays and has 2.5 kids at home. If you make it up, you make it up. But there is no just cut and dry.
Yeah, wow. So interesting. Wow. And so for you, Adam, you obviously have that connection with Bruce. Was there any particular things that you did to sit into that role, or did you just find that connection instantly because you share quite a similar background?
I was rehearsing at home and I got to the final song that he does in the show and I was just sobbing. I just instantly connected to the words, to the lyrics. I knew exactly where he was emotionally in that space, which was good because I was like, okay, the emotion is there. I can tap into that. And I also felt that that's where I had to go in that song. You can't really hold it back. So in that way, I definitely connected. And as Ray was saying, I think the other amazing thing about this story is that the musical is very true to her original intention and her story and her cartoon.
She had a heavy hand to play with that too. Like she was involved from start to finish with the musical as well.
Because when you read parts of the cartoon in the original novel, there's scenes that are exactly in the musical as is, and it's so you have that reference. You have her novel reference to go back to. Really important to read that, the original story. Yeah, so yeah, I connected. But that's the other thing I was going to say. It's like I think if you're playing a very famous character, I think that's different. There's a lot more pressure. I mean, Bruce did exist, but he wasn't famous. So it's my interpretation of Bruce to try to be as true as possible to the text and the emotions of it. There's a lot of similarities. I feel I'm pretty much just playing myself with an American accent, which I'm working on.
Is that challenging?
Yes, It's really challenging. For Ray, it comes natural.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. No,
I don't know how I'm doing it.
It's not easy.
How do you go judging everyone's trying?
I don't.
No, she's good.
It's not my job. And I've told everyone, I was like, I'm not going to overstep. And if you want my help, by all means, ask.
I was taught how to say sure.
Sure.
Not sure, sure.
And I think of Ray every time I say it.
Yes.
Sure.
Now remember, that's not 100% of the time, though. You can say sure, but it's all in the element of it.
And bin.
It's all in the element. And
where
bin.
have you been?
Where you been? Where you been? And brochures.
And what's the other one? Trauma.
We're all learning here today. Thank you for joining us in our accent class, by the way.
Yes,
we're learning along with you.
Actually, that's probably the most challenging thing is the accent. To do it also emotionally as well with the accent. And you do have to constantly Yeah, it's not natural.
I've heard that R's are the hardest. So those words, with
Those harsh R's?
You got to roll the R's. I remember seeing an interview with Daniel Radcliffe on Graham Norton where he was saying the hardest word for him was girlfriend.
Girlfriend,
New York,
carport,
I say, is
New York.
New York is tricky, especially there's one sentence, I think Small Alison says something along the lines of the army in Germany. Army in Germany.
Yeah, you got to pronounce. They pronounce their R's. They're not like an R is R.
Yeah. We sound like pirates. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I did not enjoy my accent for the first 6 months of living in this country.
And out here we're just like army.
Yeah. The army, man.
In Germany.
Yeah. I know,
there's some of the trickier ones also is Australians putting R's where they aren't supposed to be. So I would hear like Diedre or not here. I'm not hearing it here. Just in general, I've noticed that.
This is her silent judging of you all.
I'm not hearing it here at all. Side eye. Cool. But no, I don't. I don't give notes because I'm not the accent coach. I am just simply another actor, just the same as everybody else. And it's acting 101. You do not give another actor notes. That is rude. Rude.
And kind of going back to like how Alison was very directly involved with this whole entire like cultivation of the show and the book, and I think a really, really interesting thing is the real life people's response to the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they're out there, they exist. Like Joan was a real person and she's seen the show, and if you know anything about the show, there is one song that's a little bit strange, you'll see. But it's all about Joan, and she said like in like a New York Times, it must have been a blog or the New York Times, like the paper, and she was like, it was just really, really surreal, and to see that Alison's interpretation of me was this confident person when all I could think about at that time were my fears and my failures, and I don't think that is how I actually was, but that's how Alison saw me at the time, which is so interesting and so cool.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, is that they're all real people, but it doesn't matter. What we're all seeing is through Alison, including even her medium and small version is how she perceived herself growing up. Bruce could have been like, no, Alison's a little SHIT. Like just this little kid and get out of here, get out of the coffin. What's wrong with you? When she saw herself as maybe a bit more timid or petite, whatever the case may be, every character that you're I didn't even think about that. Oh, it's fascinating. Is through Alison herself. So the perception of Joan, that's brilliant. I love that.
And do you actually know if any of the people who aren't Alison have actually taken away from this production that they didn't see it the same? Did Joan see herself as like, the way Alison perceived me is not how I perceive myself? Is there any of that feedback out there?
I think that Joan definitely saw herself as a more flawed person than Alison ever saw her. I don't think that Alison thought that Joan was a martyr, but I do think that she definitely saw Joan as this person that helped her come out, like take this massive step in her life, and she's always, have that sense of gratitude. And like Joan's just a regular person. And so when she saw the show, she was like, I'm just a regular person, and here I'm like way cooler than I actually am. That's
put
wild.
on a pedestal by Alison.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's wild. And also, like, spoiler, they're not together anymore. But
what?
she was like,
I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to me.
Watching a song on stage about sleeping with this person and then like her singing about me is very, very strange. And everybody's response to it, everybody laughing and thinking that I'm this cool person, is just wild. Yeah.
And so, Michael, you play college Alison.
Yes.
Did you have to do any specific research to really dig deep into the layers of that character? You said it's a very pivotal role in Alison's life that you're playing. So what does that mean to you?
Oh, I see. I'm a bad actor theory-wise. I don't do much research. It's bad. Honestly, the most research I think I did was vaguely into the books that she reads, because I am not a reader, and Alison is such a highly intelligent person, and even in the words she uses and the way she uses her words is just so leagues beyond where I am at. I say silly, weird words in silly, weird ways. I think that was the biggest thing for me to look at and go, okay, I have to present like I'm saying these words correctly, and I know what they mean, and I know how to use them in multiple sentences. I think that looking into the books she read, because she has like a little bookshelf, and literature is really important to her and important to her relationship with her dad.
The daughter of a English teacher.
Pardon? Oh, that's pressure.
Yeah.
The daughter of an
literally.
English
Yeah. And like it said in the show that she says, my dad sends me books and I read them and we talk about the books, and like that's a big part of our relationship.
It's like reading groups.
Yeah, it's like Yeah,
on
it's
top
like
of her schoolwork.
a book club, but just with Dad and just for lols. I don't know. Wild could not be further from me. But I think that's the most research I did. I try not to do too much research because then I tend to mimic, and I tend to mimic what other people have done or what other people think I should do. And I've mimicked so much in the past, especially when I was younger. And so I really try and not do that. And I try and really sit with the words and sit with the script and see what it feels to me. And then for me, it's been really interesting watching you and trying to see what you do, and watching Theo, who plays small Alison, to see what they do, and just slotting myself in the middle of this. Whilst the story is non-linear, the character development is. Slotting myself in the middle of this linear progression has been very interesting. I'm doing my best, guys.
No, that's I was thinking about that too. The three of us needing to have similarities. Aren't you left-handed? What are you? You're left-handed.
Yes.
And,
I forgot about that.
Theo and I are right-handed, so we made the judgment. We double-checked and went, sorry, Michael.
There was
Allison's right-handed.
There was a week where we were blocking, and I'd start drawing with my left hand, and I go no, and just have to really
It's the journaling.
sneakily do it with my right hand instead.
Yeah.
That was a learning curve.
Yeah, that was wild. Yeah, small Alison, last week when we were doing a couple of the run-throughs, just came up to me and she went, "How do you sit?" And I went, I've chosen to sit kind of like with one leg up underneath Alison as she's sitting. And because she does it, she stands and watches some of the scenes, but she also needs to be out of the scene amongst the energy of the audience, for lack of better terms. So it's all about finding the focus of when is she part of the show, when is she not supposed to be, where's the focal point supposed to be. And she started sitting like I do as Alison.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
you crafty.
That's
young
another intricacy,
child.
though, where because one character is being played by 3 different people, you're getting this similarity, so there's like this smoothness between actors.
I sit like you in the car.
Yes.
I sit like you.
Oh
Did you
my
notice that?
gosh. I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I know every time I'm always like out of the corner of my eye being like, what's Ray doing? What's Ray doing? What's Ray doing? No one noticed. It's fine.
But all
lot
of
of
those
side-eye in
little
the show.
things, they'll add up to that end point being such a great production for you all.
Yeah. So speaking of like the intricacies and relationships within the characters, how well does the cast get along to make that authenticity come to life?
We don't get along. We hate each other.
Anyone here?
It's so clear right now. I was waiting for someone to say that.
Clearly differences. And then there's the 2 boys. Yeah, and they just bring so much life and a lot of energy to the rehearsal space.
Yeah, they do. They lighten it up.
Yeah.
And I think we need that.
We do.
And their songs and their characters lighten the show. Without them, they've got a wonderful song called "Come to the Fun Home." It's
an
hilarious. It's a
absolute jam.
showstopper. It's knockout funny. It's so witty. It's great.
And they sing it beautifully too. Like it's like
And they
Jackson
dance it
5
well. I wonder who
inspired.
choreographed it.
Oh, I have no idea who choreographed it. But it's like a Jackson 5 inspired number, and they are hitting these super high notes just absolutely gorgeously.
Jaden and Fraser are their names, by the way. Jaden and Fraser. We should probably mention their names. Yes.
Jaden and Fraser.
Jaden and
yeah.
Fraser, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when you come in on a show because I often don't know. I don't think I really knew anyone. I knew Ray.
Yeah, you and I knew each
I knew
other,
you a little bit, and I knew Diedre. But I suppose you just begin to. I mean, actors, or maybe it's just me, you can be a bit sort of antisocial, very insular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that sort of person. But I think because it's such an emotional show, and that's obvious, I think we've been lovely to each other. And everyone's been very warm, and I think we've connected to the fact that we are committed to this story, and we're also committed to everyone's emotional safety as well.
Yeah,
and
that's a
I
big
know
one.
the creative team very much are looking after us emotionally. So I don't know, I feel like we're bonding in our own way.
I feel like in theatre you become like a little family.
And definitely with like some of the content of the show, like some rehearsals can feel a little bit like, just because there's this weight of the content. Then of course, like everybody is also working to make sure that spirits stay high, and you know, like we're all feeling positive, and it's like it's not real. Like we're just acting, and we're having a good time, and this is fun, and we all get along. It's really good.
We've been doing the show and rehearsal 2 full runs every rehearsal, and that can start to weigh on you over time. And so each of us has individually found either our own personal way to handle or worked together as a family to keep things light in between the runs. We normally have dinner break and we chat and joke and do a bunch of like silly things, and the kids always come, even as you know, in the first couple of rehearsals when we were all by ourselves and didn't really know each other and just sitting there reading here comes one of the boys and just like, do you want a piece of candy? Like just going to everyone. Do you want one of my lollies? Like, yes, Sherry McGee, thank you, I will.
Yeah, he
Also,
brings
what's
a
your name and
bag
who are you?
every rehearsal
Yeah,
to
every
share.
time.
That's
It's
great.
beautiful.
Very cute.
And for how we get on, I feel like I really need to mention that the two boys in the show, Jaden and Fraser, have started like a club and are slowly inducting us into the club. And it's the funniest thing ever. Even the fact that because they're our youngest cast members, even the fact that these like really young boys can come up to us and feel safe and feel friendly with all of us and be like, hey, you want to do a stupid dance for our club? We will judge you and score you and we will decide if you're in the club or not.
It's
And we're like,
rigorous.
It is. I had to run up and down here the other night. It's a very serious business.
Oh, okay.
And also Theo, I feel like Theo, if you're out there, if you're watching, you are the coolest person I've ever met in my entire life. Theo plays small Alison, and they are just everything that I wish that I was as a teenager. They are so cool, so themselves. It's amazing. I love them. I love you.
Their song, come on.
Yeah, I cry
Ring
every
of
time.
Keys. Stop. Cease immediately. Oh my God.
I think we're really, really blessed to have 3 Alisons who identify as queer, and for some of them also non-binary in this show, where Alison is in real life a butch lesbian, and that is such an integral part of her identity. She's not just a lesbian, she is a butch lesbian. And I think it's just, we are so blessed to have the 3 Alisons that we've got.
Oh, shucks. This old thing.
That's amazing. So Fun Home is a deeply personal story for Alison, as you guys have all just mentioned. What do you hope that the audience will take away from this production?
What they need to. You will take away from this what you need to take away from this.
I think the worst thing that art can be is boring. I would rather you come and see one of my shows and think that it's amazing or think that it's really, really bad. So like whatever people take away from this show, I just want them to feel something, anything. Preferably I want them to like it. But if our art can make people think and analyze the other people in their lives and their relationships and, you know, like all of the work that they've done and all those sorts of things, like that's all I ask for when I'm in a show, for sure.
They'll feel something for sure because we're feeling a lot of things. And it's that sort of show that I think it's open for anyone to take whatever they need to take away from it. But I love that it's just very personal, it's very real, it's very raw, it's very honest. So I think they'll feel that they've felt something at the theatre, which is what I love to go. Like I love to get away from the theatre and go, wow, that moved me deeply. Whether it's happiness or sadness, it's like I feel like I was moved in some way. And I
forgot where I was for 90 minutes.
I definitely think this show will move people.
I think the best outcome that you could have is at the end of an hour and 40 minutes when the audience leaves and goes and has a coffee or dinner somewhere, that around that table are conversations that are stimulated by what they've just seen.
Yeah.
Whatever those conversations are, and hopefully deeper than you normally would do, that having seen the show, what comes out of it from what opens up for them, that gets those conversations happening. That would just be the best outcome for me.
I would love if everyone either called their mom and dad or their son and daughter after the show. Just want to let you know I love you.
Or if you're gay, it's okay.
Yeah, also
Or
that.
thanks for accepting my sexuality and who I am. Yeah, I think it would bringing people closer relationships.
Awesome.
That's super important.
Well, you've all entertained us this afternoon. So if the show is as entertaining as this interview has been, then that it will be excellent.
I should probably quit now then. Thanks for having me. This is as good as I
not
get.
at all. Well, so Fun Home is running here in Milton in Brisbane at PIP Theatre from August 29th to September 14th. So make sure you get your tickets. And before we leave the interview, can we just drive home? Why is Fun Home such an important story to tell today?
Oh, because I think we have choices today in terms of our sexuality, how we want to identify. You know, there's still prejudice, there's still homophobia, that's still evident. But no, you should be able to be who you are. Life's short. Just let people be who they want to be. Let yourself be who you want to be. It's your life. Just live your truth.
Absolutely.
I think in theatre, even though theatre is hugely populated by people who are queer or gender diverse or, you know, anything like that, there's not many queer, especially queer female, queer women stories told, especially in musicals, you know, like the ones that come to mind are things like Maureen from Rent, but they're almost stereotypical. As cool as Maureen is, we'll give her that. But I think it's incredible that this story is so, like, this musical is so gay. It is so gay.
I love it.
It's so gay. And it's so, as I said before, it's a butch lesbian story. It's not, like, I've gotten the pleasure to play a femme lesbian on stage before, but butch lesbians are just, there's not that representation there in musicals. And I think it's just incredible that this story is telling that.
Probably the biggest thing for me is that we don't have time, in that we live our lives as if we have all this time to have these conversations that we should have, to say the things that we should say, to deal with the conflicts that get in our way. And there's a beautiful song in the show, Telephone Wire, that Alison sings alongside Bruce there, that is for me one of those moments where you desperately want her to be able to get a resolution, to ask a question, to get an answer that would change her life. And for me, that song opens up that door that says you don't have time to wait. As hard as it is, this show allows this subject to be hard and to show you that hard questions are okay, that hard conversations need to be had. Be brave, be courageous. And for me, it just is that reminder, you don't have all the time in the world. You need to do it now, because if not just to mend relationships, it's also about you releasing yourself to live the life that you are meant to have, not the one that you're hiding from. So it's time.
I feel as a queer story, it's important in a lot of ways. It's important to many different parts of the queer community. Like, it's important to the people like Bruce, who grew up at that time, didn't feel safe and like they could come out and live their lives authentically and freely, and how they are the people that paved the way for us to be more accepted now. And that is just a beautiful thing, and those stories need to be told and heard and respected. And then in terms of like young queer, in Alison's case, young queer women and girls, like in the song Ring of Keys, a lot of people think that young children and queerness shouldn't be associated because they think that it's related to a taboo or some sort of thing, but there's just this beautiful innocence in recognizing that she knows that she's different and she can see this thing and she doesn't quite understand it, but she has the ability to go and actually explore that and feel these feelings, and it's just really, really beautiful. And it's also just super gay. So yeah, I would 10 out of 10 recommend.
I just have like one little thing to say. I'm going to say it right down the camera. Being yourself fiercely, loudly, and unapologetically is not only the bravest thing you can do, but it is seriously the most fun you can have with your life. And that's all.
It's pretty accurate. There are two major themes in this show, queer and family, and they both converge on acceptance. This show is all about Alison accepting who she is, both as a personality and as a queer individual, also accepting her father for the exact same reasons, and then dealing with the grief of that. And while this show has a finale, it doesn't have an end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Life continues on. Even if you don't have the time, do it now, because if now, when strong things happen to you, or bad things, or tragic things happen to you, life has to continue forward. It has to. And I think that this is one of the most lovely and tragic love letters to her father and to her mother.
One more thing. I think as well as being a queer story, it also brings mental illness to the forefront of your mind. And I feel like we haven't touched on that too much, but like it really, really shows you there are people there that will support you, and you don't necessarily need to go to the lengths that you think that you do sometimes. And
as well as who it affects after you're gone.
Exactly, yes.
Or after you've run away from your feeling, whatever it may be. You aren't the only one that's affected. You're right. We definitely should have touched on mental health a little bit more with this one, but yes. Yeah.
To be fair, I think the mental illness aspect of it is much more unspoken in the script. It's not explicitly said Bruce is mentally ill. It is it's just present without being said. Coded,
mental health versus mental illness.
Yeah.
And I think in that, we obviously aren't told from the get-go, Bruce is mentally ill and is having this, like, he's going down this terrible path, but it's not dissimilar to real life. We don't know what a lot of people are going through in our lives, and we don't know that they need our help and that we can do things for them. So like seeing it on a stage will hopefully make some people go, oh, I need to reach out to my loved ones and my friends and the people around me and make sure that everyone's okay.
Like if you can recognize that within the story, you might start to be able to recognize it in other aspects of your life or your friends' lives and be able to go, oh, hey, I see some correlation here. Can I do something to help?
I think it's like,
people?
as they mentioned before, it's just starting those conversations.
Yeah.
There is a lot of if only I had known energy throughout, particularly the second half of the show, I'd say. And you just don't know what's running through someone's head. You just do not know.
Well, I think you guys touched on everything.
Yeah, really important conversations to have. And as we know, queer representation hasn't always been positive queer representation. So it's important to start conversations that can get us to positive representation. And it's about learning where we've come from to know where we're going.
Yeah. And this is a great example of that story where Alison does process her sexuality and Bruce isn't able to do that. So it's like two very clear examples of dealing with sexuality and age and different factors as well.
Yeah.
So but Alison's embracing of her sexuality is a beautiful part of the story. Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and while we have mentioned several times, this is a super gay show. It is not a super camp show. And there is a difference.
Yeah.
This would be, I would say, the most quintessential play trying to be a musical dramedy or tragicomedy, whatever phrasing you want to use.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's not all super serious. It's not all super funny. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
That's the best. Well, thank you guys so much, the wonderful cast of Fun Home, for being with us and having this conversation with us.
Fun Home is coming to you at PIP Theatre in Brisbane. But make sure you get tickets to see this amazing story. And as we said, it is very gay. It is a
Super
queer
gay.
story, but more importantly, it's a human story. And these stories need to be told. So we hope you've loved what you've heard here today from the cast themselves. And I think that's it. Hey,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, I think you need to...
Remember to
Stay gay, motherfuckers!
I love it. Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
guys so much.
That just scratched an itch I really needed to scratch.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.